How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We are going to be checking out a video titled, "Is This London's Oldest Landmark?" by the channel Rob's London. I have done, honestly, I'm not sure if I've reacted to his channel or not. I've seen his channel. I've definitely watched his channel, but I don't, you know, everything I watch, I don't react to, of course, right? So anyways, the link to the original video will be down in the description section down below as always. And in the description, it says here, the London Stone, which has stood on Cannon Street, once known as Candlewick Street for many centuries, is surrounded in mystery. Despite its long history, no chroniclers or archaeologists have been able to determine what its original purpose was, or even when it was first placed in the city. There are certainly plenty of theories, though, and in this video, we'll be taking a look at them along with aspects of its known history, including connections with Shakespeare, Sir Christopher Wren, William Blake, and World War II. So I like old stuff. It just seems super interesting to me. I've never heard of the London Stone, and if I have heard of it, I've forgot. So let's check it out.
Hello, and thanks for stopping by.
You're welcome.
It goes without saying that London is packed with all manner of world famous landmarks. Everything from the Tower of London and Westminster Abbey to Buckingham Palace, the London Eye, and much, much more. There's one particular point of interest though, which, despite having been around for countless centuries, tends to get overlooked nowadays, even though it used to be one of the city's most celebrated landmarks. A curious object known as the London Stone. You'll find the London Stone tucked away in its own custom-made cabinet at 111 Cannon Street, just across from Cannon Street Station. Compared to other London landmarks, it's tiny, a block of oolitic limestone measuring just 53 centimetres long, 43 centimetres wide, and 30 centimetres high.
Now, immediately, again, not knowing anything about this, of course, this is the first time watching this video. We're watching it together. If you're new to the channel, of course, then that's the format of it, right? That way you're filled into what we, none of this is pre-watched. So this is the first time watching it. And I'm already curious as to like why they thought this stone was special. I mean, it looks kind of like it's burnt, definitely looks burnt, and it definitely looks like it was shaped. So I guess that's, they're like, well, why is it shaped a certain way? Because I guess now looking even closer, it does look like this maybe dips in a little bit. So maybe this is like a circular, cylindrical, rather, type of shape right here. And then almost like brackets coming up. And then like a base. And then this part here is kind of like where it goes in under the cylinder. I don't know. So I guess the more I look at it, the more I definitely am like, okay, I'm intrigued. Like, what is this thing for, right? An alarm going off over there. Hopefully don't do it again.
Centimetres long, 43 centimetres wide, and 30 centimetres high. Hardly a rival to Nelson's column. However, so integral is this stone to the very fabric of London, it's feared the city itself would face collapse were this block to ever disappear.
What?
The London Stone as it appears today is a mere fragment of what it once was, a stoic chunk that's been whittled down by the ravages of time. In years gone by, it formed part of a larger structure, a distinctive monolith which was originally sited in the middle of the road. Back then, by the way, Cannon Street was known as Candlewick Street, Cannon being a corruption of this old name. It has nothing to do with artillery. In 1578, an early French travel writer named Monsieur L. Grenade described the London Stone as being 3 foot high, 2 foot wide, and 1 foot thick. whilst the famous early chronicler of London, John Stow, writing 20 years later, stated that the stone is, quote, fixed in the ground very deep, fastened with bars of iron, and otherwise so strongly set that if carts do run against it through negligence, the wheels be broken and the stone itself unshaken.
So it's just shoved into the ground. Now, is this in the same location? Has it just not moved at all? They just built this cabinet thing around it then? If it's built into the ground?
Monsieur Grenade and John Stow's descriptions are far from the first mentions of the London stone though. By the time they were writing about it in the 16th century, it was already considered an ancient landmark, and the stone was deemed important enough to be included on some of the earliest detailed maps of the city.
Huh.
John Stow claimed the earliest written accounts of the London stone had appeared in a 10th century book, which had been presented to King Athelstan by Christchurch, Canterbury, although unfortunately there is no surviving evidence of this supposed manuscript. However, we do know that the very first Lord Mayor of London, who took on the role in the year 1189, was named Henry Fitz-Elwyn Londonstone, stone spelt in those days as Stane. Londonstone being a common surname in the 12th century, which was adopted by folk who resided close to the famous landmark.
So I mean I get it, I guess, because last names generally would come from occupations or like, maybe where you're from or whatever, right? So that's interesting that the stone it's just been there so long and they're not sure why, but it's just there, and then eventually it's just because it's been there so long they just kept it there, and then now there's surnames being named after the stone itself. Very intriguing, guys. Very intriguing.
Despite its long history though, no past chroniclers of London, or indeed archaeologists today, can be sure of when the London stone first arrived in the city, or what its original intended purpose was, similar, in a way, to the mystery surrounding Stonehenge. The most fanciful legend, conjured up by Geoffrey of Monmouth in the 12th century, suggests it was brought here from the ancient city of Troy by the mythical King Brutus, whilst another fable claims the stone was installed by King Lud, after which the city was called London by turning tongues.
Huh. Well, maybe it was there before London was London, right? You got all these Iron Age settlements all over the place, back in the day. And, maybe it was just something that was just already there. They said it was so far, it was just down into the ground. Although looking at this now where it's paused, it doesn't look, I mean, it looks like there's an underneath, you know what I mean? So unless it just went under and then down, maybe there's a lip on the top and then they built a cabinet to fill in that lip, but I don't know. It looks like it's just sitting inside of this cabinet is basically, I guess, what I'm getting at. It doesn't look like it's drove into the ground anymore, so I'm not sure. If it's only a 3 foot tall and everything, it's like it really couldn't have been drove into the ground. It's just a big ass rock laying there. So maybe it is shaped bigger at the top with a lip and then skinnier and then maybe like a spear shape where it goes in. I don't know. I'm just going to go back to the video, stop speculating, tangent over.
A more plausible theory is that it was the Romans who introduced the London stone for use as a marker to which all distances to and from Londinium could be measured, similar to the manner in which King Charles Island, just south of Trafalgar Square, is now used to denote the capital's official centre.
Could be. Actually, that's a very good possibility because, of course, Rome occupied, the area for a long time before it became what it is now and everything. So, because after Rome left, that's when it fell into the Dark Ages, and then eventually built up from there, go into the more medieval times and blah, 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 right?
Although the London stone is not known to have borne any Latin inscriptions, this idea does make some sense, as it sits on what would have been the approximate route of Watling Street, and was also close to the southern end of Ermine Street, which ran along what's now Bishopsgate, both of which were major highways in Roman Britain. Having said that, some believe that the stone, which according to tests run in 2016 was quarried in the Cotswolds, although earlier studies suggest Rutland, was already in place when the Romans arrived, and was possibly used as an importance marker by early Britons, or even as an altar for Druid worship, as suggested by William Blake, who in his epic work Jerusalem wrote, "Where Albion slept beneath the fatal tree, and the Druid's golden knife rioted in human gore, in offerings of human life, they groaned aloud on London stone."
They what?
Groaned aloud in human gore, in offerings of human life, they groaned aloud on London stone. John Stowe also stated it was likely the stone once served a commercial purpose, a meeting spot where loans could be arranged and paid off at designated times. There is at least one recorded incident of the stone being involved in something of a business capacity. In 1671, a batch of spectacles, which had been made in a shop on Cannon Street, not the optician shown here I hasten to add, were deemed by the Guildhall as being bad and deceitful, and so the order was given to have the dodgy merchandise smashed to pieces upon the London stone. It's been claimed that, during the medieval era, the stone was of such symbolic importance, newly crowned monarchs were expected to lay their hand upon the landmark as a means of asserting their authority. There is no evidence such ceremonies were ever conducted, although in 1450 the London stone was famously acknowledged by Jack Cade, the leader of a rebellion against King Henry VI, who, upon storming the capital, tapped the monument with his sword and audaciously declared that he was now lord of this city.
Okay.
So notorious was this incident, Shakespeare included it in Henry VI Part 2, in which he has Jack Cade say, "Now is Mortimer lord of this city, and here, sitting upon London stone, I charge and command that, of the city's cost, the pissing conduit run nothing but claret wine this first year of our reign."
I just had a thought. What if it's so symbolic? So obviously there's a reason for it, right? I mean, it's one of two ways. You either got, it's just a random, just a stone, no significance to London at all, left over from Iron Age, and it just was there for so long that nobody knew why, so they kept it, and then it just became a thing that they used for meeting spaces and blah, 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 and it just turned into a landmark. And the other thing could be it was so important that they made it or kept it because it was important, but because it was just so long ago, the original origin or reason was just lost to time, like a lot of stuff gets to be, and then they forgot why it was even there because they were just so used to it being there. And then generation after generation goes by, and then now we're like, I don't even know why, right? But if it was an important thing in the beginning, what if it was King Arthur's, like what if it was Excalibur, the sword in the stone legend? Although a lot of people think that was more over in like Wales areas, so that doesn't, so unless it could have got moved to London along the way at some point, I don't know, but maybe it was the significant sword in the stone, so the stone part obviously of that story, and then it just got lost to time. I don't know, just a random thought. Let me know what you think about it.
The conduit referred to here, in case you're wondering, was a pipe. The conduit referred to here, in case you're wondering, was a pipe which once carried fresh water into the city. It's commemorated by this plaque on Cheapside. I'm sure it would have been quite something to see wine gushing, or as Shakespeare puts it, pissing along it. It's no surprise Shakespeare included the London stone in his play. because by the Elizabethan era, the monument had certainly become something of an early tourist attraction, as demonstrated in Samuel Rowland's 1608 poem, A Strange Sighted Traveller, which includes the lines, "An honest country fool, being gentle bred, was by not conceited humour led, to travel and some English fashion see, with such strange sights as here at London be. Great Tall Paul Steeple, and the Royal Exchange, the Boss at Billingsgate, and the London Stone, and Whitehall the monstrous Great Whale's Bone." When the Great Fire consumed the city in 1666, it would appear the London Stone was badly damaged. So gutted was the area, in fact.
What year? So this is when it got, that's the burnt part. That's why it looks burnt.
It would appear the London Stone. When the Great Fire consumed the city in 1666, it would appear the London Stone was badly damaged. So gutted was the area, in fact, the monument's foundations were exposed, and it transpired they were much deeper than expected. This, along with the discovery of fragments of Roman flooring nearby, led Sir Christopher Wren to theorise that the London Stone was indeed of Roman origin. He reckoned it may have once been located within a larger Roman building of some sort.
Okay.
Sadly, it would appear the stone's old foundations were chiselled away in the late 1860s, when tunnelling was carried out for the Metropolitan District Railway, now the District and Circle lines, the route of which passes directly beneath Cannon Street. In the wake of the Great Fire, a shelter of sorts was placed over the stone, as mentioned in its revealing report.
So did they say they ruined the bottom of it? Is that what they said?
From July 1741. A carman and a drayman, contending for the way in Cannon Street, made a shift between them to throw down the little building that covers London Stone, and to pull the said stone out of the earth. This being presently known, great numbers of people flocked to see it. This insight suggests the London Stone had become something of an obstruction to traffic, so it's perhaps no coincidence then that just a year later, in 1742, the remains were relocated to the south side of Cannon Street, close to the corner of Dowgate Hill.
Okay, so in 17 something, they relocated it. So they had an underground system before that? Maybe it was 1970 something. Let me hear this again.
The remains were relocated to the south side of Cannon Street, close to the obstruction to traffic. So it's perhaps no coincidence then that just a year later, in 1742,
1742. Huh. Interesting.
the remains were relocated to the south side of Cannon Street, close to the corner of Dowgate Hill. Meanwhile, St Swithin's Church, which had stood opposite the stone since the 13th century, but was destroyed in the Great Fire, was rebuilt by Sir Christopher Wren. So closely associated were St Swithin's and the London Stone in fact, their names were often combined when referring to addresses or the neighbourhood in general, as demonstrated in this rather disturbing extract from March 1757, when a vagrant, previously banished from the area, was detected in the parish of St Swithin, London Stone. He was ordered to be whipped publicly in the above parish, which was accordingly done, with notice given him that if he returned as a vagrant, he would, as a convict, be transported to His Majesty's plantations in America for 7 years. Despite there being a widely held superstition that London would fall if this famous little stone were to ever disappear, the London Stone eventually came to be considered a nuisance by some, possibly because it blocked the street and attracted gawpers, and in the late 18th century, plans were made to have it removed altogether. Fortunately,
So when they moved it the first time, they moved it to another spot in the street, it sounds like. Now they're moving it again.
a local printer named Mr. Malden stepped in to have the landmark saved, which he achieved by having the stone shifted to the north side of Cannon Street and set against the wall of St Swithin's. This was carried out in 1798, and the stone remains in the same position today, even though the church no longer exists.
Wow.
When the stone was first incorporated into St Swithin's, it sat within a relatively unguarded alcove, the purpose being to leave it as far as possible in its original simplicity.
Yeah.
In 1869, though, the church wardens agreed to commission an ornamental covering with a grille, which would allow the London stone to remain visible to the public, but beyond the reach of mischief.
Vandals. Gotta ruin it for everybody.
Sadly, St Swithin's was destroyed during the Blitz, although miraculously, the London stone, in a manner befitting its mythical status, managed to survive, and it remained at the bomb site for over 2 decades.
Okay.
Then, in the early 1960s, the ruins were cleared to make way for an office block. This incorporated the London Stone's cabinet, and over the following years, the new building in which it sat accommodated numerous businesses, including a bank, a branch of W.H. Smith, and a sports shop. In 2016, the site was once again redeveloped, and whilst this work was being carried out, the London Stone was put on temporary display.
Hold on. It was burnt up in black earlier. You can see the line right here. Maybe it's just different lighting. Yeah. It's interesting how it only burnt on that, like the front and the top, like the sides are fine.
Inside the Museum of London. London's oldest landmark was returned to Cannon Street in 2018, complete with a fancy new case, from which the mysterious little object will no doubt keep watch over the city for many more centuries to come.
Very interesting. Has anybody been there? Has any of these viewers?
Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this.
Have any of you guys been there? What are your thoughts on it? Does it look like there might be like a little slit? Like, could there have been a sword in it? But then again, if there was a sword in it that long ago, the hole would calcify up, right? It you know, there's a good chance it would fill back up with dirt, debris, whatever, right? So you wouldn't be able to tell. But they said that they're like, oh well, they found remains of like Roman floor under it too, whatever. That doesn't mean it was Roman. It could have been right after the Roman era. You know what I mean? In the King Arthur era, you know, it could have been the sword in the stone. Maybe I'm just being too hopeful. You guys have a super fun, awesome day. I'll catch you in the next one. Take care. Bye.